Okay. Do you want me to do the intro?
You do the intro this time. Go on. You're listening to the Nerds Out of Order podcast, Nerd News, with Michael Lobb and David Camus.
Good afternoon and welcome. Nerds Out of Order is a podcast brought to you by two tech professionals and long-term friends, David Camus and Michael Lobb. We give a wide range of perspectives. You don't need to agree with us, and we often don't agree with each other. But after listening to us for 30 minutes, sometimes with a guest or two, you will definitely have an idea of our view.
David runs One Bright Cloud, where he heads up a team of techs and futurists looking at autonomous vehicles, AI, and public safety.
Michael runs TeamScale, whose mission it is to reduce risk in software development projects, allowing visionary founders and talented developers to deliver amazing software on time and on budget.
We challenge our own perspectives and try to see things from each other's perspective. You don't need to agree, but after listening to this podcast, we try to give you an idea.
Okay, Michael, what do you have for us today?
Reading through a few news articles this week, Warner are starting to use AI in film selection. So they're using this AI to ensure that they can predict which films are going to be successful and which films are going to be unsuccessful. And before you say, well, we can't have computers choosing our movies, it's not just computers making the decisions. They're giving the people that are making those creative decisions enough numbers and breaking down massive data sets and showing patterns that we probably wouldn't be able to see as humans. So for the creative decision making, they still need experience and gut instinct. What's your opinion on that, David? Would you go and see an AI selected movie, or what's the?
Well, you look at the data. You look at the data sets that we have available to us today, and that they obviously have available. That are they're global. They're from around the world. They have data sets based on TV, on movies at cinemas, and many other things. I think that we're already in that arena. And the way I say that is because we are watching movies on things like Netflix that have been highlighted to us as one of our movies through an email, and all of that is sent through AI.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on it?
Look, I think that machine learning is really good at crunching numbers and giving us trends and statistics and things that we wouldn't normally notice. So they might see, that one movie that is actually going to create huge amounts of money for them, but it may not be self-evident. So it might be one of those weird things. It might be one of those weird movies that nobody has ever thought, oh yeah, this is going to be great, but suddenly goes on to be this amazing money spinner.
And I think this is what it's all about. It's about bringing in a higher cash flow, making movies more profitable, and trying to remove the element of doubt when selecting the time frame to deliver movies. Because different movies have to be delivered at different times in the year. The feel-good movies around Christmas, the children's movies at school holidays, this sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's also a cycle of what are they missing out on in terms of competing with other studios, and they'll be able to see that from past trends as well. We released the same movie as the other studio on this weekend. Are we going to succeed or aren't we? And that could be a question for a person, but it's probably more likely to be answered by a person with the right numbers and with assistance from AI.
And I think we have to be careful about what we're talking here. When they're talking about artificial intelligence, they're not talking about a robot that is making decisions on our behalf or their behalf. It is a way of number crunching that gives them the results they're looking for. So let's break it down into some really basics. Artificial intelligence is a enabler for a system to learn from the data. And if you want to take that to more levels, you've got machine learning, and that's a way of searching for patterns within the data. Deep learning, which is the next level down, that's searching for algorithms around the structure and of the data, and is often called neural networks. And at the very lowest level, and this is where machines may at some point make decisions, and I say at some point because they're not really making decisions yet. A neural network is algorithms that endeavours to recognise the relationships of data and mimicking how the human brain will operate. So a neural network can adapt to a changing input of data, but it still needs, at the moment, that input of data for it to make a decision. So we're not at that decision-making level as such. We're getting there, but they are putting data in to see what can come out.
So what you're saying is Hollywood producers are not going to have to give up their second mansion or their third mansion?
No, they're buying a fourth or a fifth mansion because they're going to be making more money out of their movies.
That's all we need, isn't it?
No, we enjoy movies. I enjoy movies, and I know you do. We've spoken about all the different TV and streaming services we have available.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. If the movie is going to be good, we'll watch it. I'm sure we will. Everybody has a difference of opinion on multiple movies, whether they come out well with Rotten Tomatoes or not. But that's the way it goes, and I just think it's another way of for film people to select movies.
Do you think that the data that they're putting in and getting out of this system will allow them to understand what those cult shows are going to be that they shouldn't have cancelled? I'm talking about Firefly here, where it was a short run, they cancelled it, and then after a few years, people realised how great it was, and they'd missed out on perhaps 4 seasons of income from this TV show.
Yep. I think it will help that sort of thing a lot.
Then I'm all for it. You're
all for it. Well, just look, how many times did Harry Potter get put in front of people from J.K. Rowling? I think it was a number of years. I can't remember how many years she was trying to push it for. And everyone said, no, it'll never take off. No, it's no good. Blah, 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 blah. We've heard the story. And where has that ended up? And every movie, every book sold out instantly around the globe.
Spin-offs in theme parks, spin-offs in toys and merchandise, all sorts of things.
Yeah, even in Sanford Valley, we have a little Harry Potter store. It's just amazing how that's taken off, considering how many years it was a no.
Yeah.
So yeah, AI may have helped that in the long run at the beginning, but wasn't a movie at the beginning. It was just a book. But many movies have started out as a book in one way or another.
Yeah, or a dodgy script that someone's come along with.
No, they're the ones I write.
David, one of the things that we were talking about last week was the bushfires, and a few weeks ago was obviously New Year's Eve. A lot of people were calling for the cancellation of fireworks, and fireworks displays were costing millions and millions of dollars, but potentially causing more fires. I've been noticing a lot of articles about drone fireworks or drone displays, and I know that you're in your work you're really interested in all of the drones and how they all fit together. Do you want to talk to us about what that involves and what are the barriers and the costs and things like that?
Yeah, sure. Yes, you picked on something that I do love: drones and putting artificial intelligence in drones and getting multiple drones to actually work together. Fireworks, yeah, they're costly, but so are the drones. The feedback from the Sydney fireworks for 2019 was $5.8 million.
Wow.
Was the cost of the firework display in Sydney Harbour.
Holy wow.
And yeah, there were many firework displays that were cancelled around Australia, and a natural fact around the globe in recognition of our bushfires, they were cancelling fireworks. Fireworks do have that issue that they can set fire. We know that bushfires have already been started by people purposely setting off fireworks to go long distances and then dropping them into bushland, as they have with drones. People have launched drones and dropped them with little firebug items in them to set fire to bushfire. So both have the capability of doing bad things. A firework is that. It is a fire. It is a little piece of dynamite or that's setting fire in various colours, in various ways to make patterns. So let's look at what's happening around the world. The drones have been going for many years, since 2015. I know there's a company over in the US called Drone Light. They've been doing flying light shows since 2015. They've started with just a couple, and over those years, I think they've done about 320 odd shows, and they have built up very, very large shows. What are the barriers? I think the barriers are the licensing, the short flight times at the moment, the way of getting 100, 500, 1,000 drones to work together. What happens when one drops off? What's the possibility of it hurting somebody in the crowd? In Australia, I believe our biggest threat here is our population. We don't have the population you do in China, Japan, America, Europe. So you don't get the attendance over here, which means it doesn't have that visibility. Drones have been going on for a number of years in car adverts, and I know that recently in Australia, in September, the Mitsubishi released what I think is a fantastic advert for them. And I know Lamborghini and Audi have both had adverts with drone, but the Mitsubishi one just took it off. I think they must have had over 400 or 500 drones flying around the car as it was going through the freeway. Wow.
I do remember seeing that ad. It's pretty amazing.
It is. And I've seen a number of drone light displays. I won't call them drone firework displays because that takes the fire back into it. So I'll call it drone light displays. In 2018, there were the first world record for drone displays was 1,374 drones all working together in the city over the city wall of Xi'an.
Xi'an.
And I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly or not. Xian. I apologise if I haven't. Then last year, in Shanghai, a new world record with 2,000 drones working together. Okay, and that was over the new year as well. They removed all the fireworks and they just had drones.
Yeah, I did see that on TV. That was pretty sensational because I think they had laser lights as well as drones and all sorts of amazing things.
Yeah, and you can go and look at that YouTube. It is amazing, and these light displays are getting better and better.
Yeah.
So what are the costs? So the costs would obviously depend on the location, indoors, outdoors.
If Sydney was 5.8 million
for fireworks,
for fireworks, you'd want to think that. I don't know. Is it the same or?
Well, I've been trying to do some research on this because I haven't got any strong data. I found a company over in the US who were talking about 500 drones for around about $75,000. Now, you'd want a lot more than that. You'd want it for a longer time than 10 minutes, which is what they were saying. The fireworks in Sydney went on for probably 30 minutes plus. So you're still looking at around about $250,000 to $400,000, maybe $1 million. But that seems a lot less And I don't know if the fireworks for Sydney, that 5.8 million, includes security, barges,
insurance,
and the ground the ground crew and the insurance and everything. I know the figures that I've got are literally just for the drones and just for 10 minutes. They don't include the freight or the flight costs for people to come over from the US or from China.
Are there companies in Australia doing this?
We have 3 or 4 companies in Australia doing it. They don't seem to have the numbers yet that they have overseas. They may well start getting into that size. And I hope they do, because it would be really good.
Yeah, then the fireworks displays can be more of a special occasion when the timing's right. I mean, for example, my house is quite close to a stadium. They have games there pretty much every week, and there are fireworks nearly every week. My dogs hate it. I get upset because they're upset. All the way through the last few months while there's been bushfires burning, they've been having fireworks there. There was a ban on for a couple of weeks, but they came back again. For me, it should be a special occasion. And growing up, it was always, in New Zealand, it was November 5th, which was Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy Fawkes Night.
But, here it seems to be... I live on the Gold Coast, but it seems that we've got fireworks at least every weekend, and that to me is a bit of a waste, if there's another way to do it. And if there's a company doing that, then perhaps there's a business there. But
you seeing those fireworks week in, week out, each time they have those fireworks, are they showing them to a different crowd? So is it a one-off for each of those crowds?
Maybe.
And how would your...
Yep. Maybe, but I'd say it's the same team playing there every weekend. I'd assume it's
okay. Yeah, I'm not sure which stadium it is. And the other thing is, how would your beautiful puppy go around the of 2,000 drones working together?
Well, we're far enough away that it would be. We're far enough away that you can't hear drones. I mean, we have had drones flying around, and we can hear them when they're on the close to us. But this is over a few kilometers away, and the noise of the fireworks takes a good 3 or 4 seconds to reach us. So I would assume that it would be a little bit less noise.
I know for a fact that getting a license for fireworks, if you're already licensed to do them, getting a license to show them is easier than getting a license to show drones at the present time, especially in a highly populated area, especially when you've got the public underneath.
And I guess there's a flight path right through here as well. So
most places have a flight path somewhere. You have to work that in.
Yeah.
It's an interesting fact. And drone packages go from 40 drones to obviously now 2,000 drones. And every time you increase the number, the chances of a drone dropping out is more. I have seen a couple of drones drop down, and they're pretty light when they drop down. They don't seem to hurt anyone. I've also seen, both in the UK on Guy Fawkes Night and over here, fireworks go wrong and them shoot into the crowds.
Oh, wow.
And they can be a lot more harmful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And over in the UK at Guy Fawkes Night, and I don't know about in New Zealand, we used to have kids who set fireworks off while they're holding them, and they would lose fingers, and it was quite a big thing.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. It's gone. Fireworks are not really a thing other than celebrations, I think.
There you go. And it may not be a thing in the UK anymore. I am going back probably 35 years plus.
Yeah, and I'm over 20 years over here, so.
Okay. Well, that's fun. I'd like to see more drones. I really would. I'd like to see large drone packages coming over. I'd like to see some of the companies over here really taking it on, especially for marketing purposes. I think it's really big for the ability to put logos in above dancers, above dancing shows, whether it be school shows or whether it be very large stadiums. I think drones are a thing. I think they're going to come in.
I want to see drones with frickin' lasers.
Now we're going down a path of Star Wars.
I thought that was Austin Powers. Anyway, back to the movies again.
Okay.
All right. Well, look, I've got one for you. You and I have both come from IT and have had various levels of having to support the enterprise out there.
We have indeed.
It's finally the end of Windows 7. And, you and I have probably been around since Windows 3.
Windows 3.1.
DOS 6.2, or whatever it was. And then Windows 3.1. And then Windows 3.11, I think, added networking. And NT 3.51 was like, wow, oh my God. Anyway, end of Windows 7.
Windows Terminal Server in Y2K in year 2000. Yeah, we remember those days.
So Windows 7 is, I guess, the XP of this last 5 years. XP was one of the most successful versions of Windows, I think. It was one of the most stable. They went through XP and then to a bunch of others that didn't really work so well. Windows 7 was pretty stable, and people will still continue to use Windows 7 instead of 8. And recently, obviously, Windows 10 has been okay, but people have opted to stay on Windows 7.
Is that a fact?
I mean, I know from the counts that I've done in organizations that I'm involved in, there are a significant portion of Windows 7 machines still out there. I know that there are some very large organizations paying Microsoft to support Windows 7 for another year while they migrate to Windows 10.
So most of those seem to be moving to Windows 10, even though they've stayed on Windows 7 until the bugs have been worked through.
Yeah, but we still see machines on Windows XP.
True. Oh, that's a good point.
So, for the next 100 years, we're going to have, maybe not 100, but, at least the next 25 years, we're going to have Windows 7 machines out there that, has something running on it that we can't migrate to a later version. And therefore,
isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Some little database that's somewhere in some form of...
Someone wrote something in Fox Pro and it only works on Windows XP.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on Windows 10?
I migrated to Windows 10. I was an early migrator. I found a few bugs right at the beginning. I rolled back to Windows 7 for a while. Now I'm back on Windows 10 and I use it and love it. I got to admit, I'm not an Internet Explorer. I use Chrome nearly all the time rather than Windows Explorer.
I use Brave. Chrome just uses up too much memory for me, and Brave has helped alleviate that, although there are some, for example, I'm recording this in Chrome, not in Brave. It should work in Brave, but it doesn't. I don't really know why. But, what you're alluding to is that Internet Explorer is also being decommissioned, and Edge Chromium, which is the version of Edge written using Chromium, which is the same tool set as what Google Chrome uses, is now being released. And I've used it, and it's blazingly fast. It seems to use a lot less resources than Chrome, and it seems to be a lot better managed in terms of memory usage than Chrome. And I haven't used Internet Explorer. Maybe I should be looking
at Edge. I haven't looked at Edge for a while.
Give it a go. Give Edge Chromium a go. It's if you go to Microsoft.com/Edge, I guess it's going to come up with the right thing. Maybe. And anyway, the interesting thing is you said you moved to Windows 10, then you moved back to Windows 7, then you moved to Windows 10 again. I never used to do that because I've been on a Mac for the last 200 years, and it used to be that you just got the new version of Mac OS and everything just worked the way that it should do. There was a bit of confusion and chaos when Macs moved from the G4 processors to Intel-based processors,
Mm-hmm.
but that seemed to resolve itself pretty quickly. The last decade of macOS releases have been relatively stable. However, the latest versions of macOS I've been holding off upgrading, and the reason for that is the same as what you just described. I'll upgrade and then something won't work and I'll have some bugs and I have to go back. And I just got frustrated with that. So now I'm waiting until I can see in, all the forums that, yep, most of these things have been corrected. So time to move on.
What's the effect of Windows 7, Windows 10 coming to an end? What's the actual effect of this? What's it going to cause?
So every second Tuesday, Patch Tuesday, Microsoft releases a set of security fixes that, or a release. They release a patch for Windows that allows them to have all of their security patches installed on the operating system. Most sysadmins roll these out pretty rapidly after they've been released, normally on a Tuesday night. Surprise, surprise. And what that means is that their enterprise or their desktop fleet doesn't get infected with malware, viruses. The security holes are breached. The security holes that may have been present are no longer present, and all of the things that could provide a hacker a way into a desktop are now not there anymore. Because the support for Windows 7 has now come to an end, Windows 7 will no longer receive patches to ensure that security holes are patched. Now, if you imagine an application or a program like Windows 7, it's probably got millions and millions of lines of code, and there's probably tens of thousands of bugs. And those bugs, sometimes you don't even know that they're there until someone exploits them. So what we in the IT industry try to do is make sure that whenever Microsoft release a patch, we get it out there as quickly as we can so that we don't lose our network to people who are going to exploit anything that is vulnerable. With no more security patches from Microsoft, anything that's vulnerable will continue to be vulnerable. We won't be able to patch that unless we go through, and patch that at a hardware level, maybe through the network, or I don't know. But it opens risk up that Windows 7 machines can be hacked. And with no security patches, it means that networks become more and more vulnerable. And we saw this with XP in the Conflicker case, where they found an exploit, they pushed a worm through that exploit, and the worm replicated and suddenly appeared on everyone's machines through that exploit. There's been numerous cases of these things, but what happens is not everyone upgrades, and there's still XP machines out there, and I've heard that the number ranges from 100,000 to 400,000 XP machines that are pre-2008 patched. So that means that people who have found an exploit for Windows XP after around August 2008 can still infect those XP machines with the tools that caused a lot of chaos in the world previously.
We'd have to hope that the majority of those machines are privately owned by individuals rather than on company networks. And I say we have to hope because we both know that there will be some out there that are running old technologies.
I don't have the figures on that, but I have a feeling that a lot of these machines that are out in the wild, I'd say a hefty percentage of them, I wouldn't want to guess at the percentage, but I'd say it'd be 30 to 40% of them would be in large organizations where they can't move from XP because they have legacy software sitting on those machines that can't be migrated.
Wow. So the only way of getting over this is to form the Matrix and get protected.
The only way to get out of this is to buy a Cybertruck.
With a Matrix enabler around it.
If you buy a Cybertruck, that will enable Elon Musk to develop the Matrix, and you won't need to worry about this anymore.
And there was a newspaper article, as you have gone back to the Cybertruck, stating that the Cybertruck will outlive an apocalypse.
Fantastic.
How's that?
Fantastic.
Sorry, I've taken you off course.
No,
it is
good.
quite serious.
I've been rambling. This is a serious issue because, it's not just Windows 7, it's Windows 2008 R2, which is the server version of that, I guess, or the server version that was released around the same time. I've still got 2008 R2 servers. Hackers, are you listening? Luckily, they're off the network, or they're
off the grid.
They're off the internet. They're on a network, and they're specifically there for me to use specific tools that I need from time to time. But 2008 R2 was the standard for 5 or 6 years. So, we're now on we're in 2020, and I think we're still releasing 2016 machines. Or anyway,
I'm just reading an article here. As of 2018. 4.5% of computers still are on Windows XP.
Right. So that's a
massive number.
That's a huge number. Even if it's 1%, there's billions of computers in the world. So even if it's 1%, it's still a shitload.
Wow. I hadn't realized it would be so high. That's very interesting to hear.
So the moral of the story, folks, upgrade your machines from Windows XP or Windows 7 to Windows 10, or if you want to, then migrate to Linux or to Mac OS. Make sure that you're patching your machine regularly. And when I say patching your machine, patch your devices, not just your machine. If you've got a tablet, an iPad, or a Samsung Galaxy, patch that thing. If you've got a phone, patch it. Every time it says, I have a security update to install, do that. Because otherwise you're leaving a hole open that someone can find that vulnerability and get into your machine and do whatever they want with it. And
while you're patching your machine, clean your keyboard.
Oh, yeah. So you asked me before we came on this podcast, how often do I disinfect my smartphone? And I said, what?
And I replied, yeah, what? I don't think I've ever really cleaned my phone.
I've cleaned my keyboard because I've spilt stuff on it.
And you've dropped your crumbs and the pizza and the pies. Yep. I've seen you working late at night.
I wouldn't have disinfected it at the time.
But apparently, according to a survey, I believe it's out from ZNet, only less than 40% of people have ever cleaned their phone.
Wow.
So there was 20%, give or take, that will clean it weekly, 14% clean it monthly, 7% said, yep, as soon as I get sick, I clean everything, but 60% have never cleaned their phone. But have you ever cleaned your keyboard?
I probably clean my keyboard more than I clean my phone.
I reckon I clean my work keyboards, because I've got various offices. I reckon I'll do that, and the phone and the phone on the desk once a month. But I've never done my mobile phone.
So I hot desk a little bit. If there's a phone on my desk and I'm going to use it, I do disinfect it. But I don't do it with my phone because I guess that's always with me, I think.
It's the same old adage. One of the items we carry around that it has the most germs on it are dollar bills. Paper and plastic dollar bills have more germs on them than anything else we touch.
Have you time traveled into an era when we had dollar bills?
Oh, ouch.
I mean, I get what you mean with if you're in the US...
The old threepence coin.
If you're in the US, you'd call it a single, and you know where that single's been.
Yes. I know
Silence.
where that single has been.
So, you would never put that near your face, for example. But
okay. Anyway.
That's got me thinking. Do you have disinfectant wipes around the house? I don't.
Actually, I do. Yeah. I do have but I have children. You have dogs. You must have disinfectant wipes around the house.
Not wipes, but I've got, we've got soap stations pretty much everywhere. But
yeah, we went from pooey bum wipes to disinfectant wipes, and now the house has got a cupboard with different smellies of disinfectant wipes so that we can choose anywhere and everywhere to go to.
Interesting. Maybe I'm just disgusting. Now I feel dodgy about touching my keyboard. But then no one else touches my keyboard, so am I Am I just...
Which is why I do my work one, because I know other people touch my work one. I know other people use my work phone.
I clean my guitar more often than I clean my keyboard. That's terrible.
And we all know where your guitar's been.
Yeah, sitting in its case because
because you don't get time to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I wanted to give you an update because last week we spoke about the blob. The blob is the bit of water that is off the coast of New Zealand, in between New Zealand and South America, and is a few degrees higher in heat and in temperature than everywhere else. And you asked a question saying, I wonder what effect that has on the wildlife. Well, it's quite significant.
This is very significant and quite scary.
Yeah, it's affected the food supply of a lot of the seabirds, and they're dying.
They are dying in their hundreds of thousands. They believe there is over 1 million dead seabirds that are washing up around the world because of this singular hot blob that is 50,000 kilometres large just off of New Zealand. In Alaska alone, and that's a long way for these seabirds to be travelling, 4,500 carcasses were found on every kilometre. 4,500 birds for every kilometre. And we did say, what were the effects on the sea life around it? And it's killing off the sea life around it. And we still don't know, truthfully, what's caused it. We still assume that it's because there wasn't, that there is a lack of winds in the area. And
the lead author of the study, who is a research biologist at the U.S. Geological Survey's Alaska Science Center, and an affiliate professor at the UW School of Aquatic and Fishery Sciences. Wow, he's pretty smart. He said it was astonishing and alarming and a red flag warning about the tremendous impact sustained ocean warming can have on the marine ecosystem.
Which is interesting because the previous articles have been alluding to the fact that this blob was a one-off, and it would, the way I read it, it would disseminate through the ocean and it wouldn't be a problem. The way it's now being written in relation to the North Pacific blob, as it's now called, it is a problem, and it's not dying down, it's getting bigger.
It's huge.
This is something I think we'll be watching for a while and reporting back on, because
we'll try to keep you up to date.
This has got quite a bit of meaning on it.
And with that, is there anything else you wanted to add, David? Or do you want to close us off?
I think we can close us off quite happily. Please add any comments below. If you want to get in contact with us, we'd be very interested in hearing from you. And take care of yourselves, and we will look forward to speaking to you all again in a couple of weeks. It's bye from me.
And bye from me. And don't forget to subscribe using your favourite podcasting software, and make sure to comment and rate us, because that makes it much better for us.
Preferably a really good rating.
See you, David.
Bye-bye.